Growing up, people don't really tell you, oh, maybe you're trans. Hi, I'm Andrea, and I am a fashion model. I've always felt like I was a girl. I was lucky enough to find out information about what this all meant when I was about 13, and I just went to the library and I googled transition, and because I was just from a young age I was interested in this idea of transitioning from male to female, but I didn't really know it was possible. And then I discovered who I was. You grow up and if people see a feminine boy, they'll be like, oh, well, maybe he's gay. I had an idea of what homosexuality meant at the time, but I just didn't feel like it fit me, and I couldn't explain why it didn't fit until that day, until I discovered that it was possible to be trans. I knew that to be happy, to not feel like I have to hide for the rest of my life, I knew that I had to transition. Puberty for a transgender person is one of the hardest things to go through. Imagine being a girl and growing hair everywhere, and your voice deepening, or being a boy and growing breasts and having to go through periods. It can be quite traumatizing. After already setting certain things into motion, I decided that I had to tell my mom, and I was 14 at the time, and we were on a holiday, and it was probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do. I was like, Mom, I'm transgender. She's like, what does that mean? She was scared most of all for my health. I think the hardest thing for her was going down this path and then me having regrets later on. So I kind of had to prove to her that I wasn't going to go back, that this is what I wanted and this is who I was. It didn't take long for her to be fully supportive and to love me, and that meant the world. We didn't have a lot in my family, but I had a lot of love. That acceptance that your family gives you, you can use that as a springboard for your state of being. It just makes you more confident. The closer I came to who I was, I felt more rewarded and I felt more confident. And that's where the modeling thing came out of too. I was working at McDonald's and an agent happened to walk in and he gave me his card. And then I went in to see them and they just said, well, you've got this really interesting androgynous look, finish school, go to Europe, and there you'll have a bright future. It would help get to a certain point where I had financial independence, where I could afford my full transition. So I took that card and I ran with it. I don't think transition is necessarily about losing anything. It's more just about gaining. It feels like you are finishing a delayed puberty. It felt like just growing up into a woman, except I just did it later than other people. I felt like I was always Andrea, but for a certain period I lived as Andre. I don't think being an activist is something that I always wanted to be. I was never so political about LGBT issues, but I was going through something and, I had this opportunity to share it with the world and to change people's minds and to change the minds of an industry and hopefully inspire young people to be themselves. It's a powerful thing, I think, when you have a role model. Being the first trans woman in American Vogue, the first one to land a cosmetics contract, to be on the cover of Marie Claire, GQ. I'm definitely very proud of these achievements. To my younger self, I'd say you will grow into the woman you always wanted to be. I'm Andrea, and I'm proud.